see it. But
Oh, you know, I just saw John Kerry.
hey, Bill,
If you want to send it, I'll send him a.
who
You know,
others
John
have said
just wrote
that they
a
were
book.
coming, right?
Who?
Other members have said they were coming.
Okay. The people who said they're coming, Jerry's coming for the second half.
Right.
Stuart said he was coming.
Okay.
Peter, probably leaving early.
Okay. Okay.
So Edith is.
Do I read this whole thing, or do I? Because they haven't seen this one, right? Yeah. Yeah.
That one should only be 2 pages, right?
It is. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry.
No. I mean,
I
I'm.
would have cut back.
No. Folks, we're going to begin because we have a quorum now, apparently. So welcome to our post-summer PCAC meeting. And we will have a lot more to say after these chairs' reports. There's a lot going on in the hallway, it sounds like. So can we have an approval of the agenda for today? Thank you. How about the minutes? Any corrections or additions to the minutes, or can we have an approval of them as submitted? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. So as you all know, Bill is retiring in October. This is his last full PCAC meeting. Hard to imagine. Bill assumed the executive director position in December of 2006 after serving as associate director since 2004. The PCAC executive director opening was posted on the MTA job postings website. Since our staff members are employed through the MTA's human resources system, and we publicized the opening in several other places as well. Our PCAC Executive Committee completed interviews of 4 excellent candidates for the position and began moving ahead in the final part of the process consistent with Executive Committee members' evaluation of the candidates. Working with MTA Headquarters Human Resources, we are pursuing a preferred candidate and hope to have a final commitment to announce to you soon. And I just tried calling HR, and the person was out to lunch, so not literally, just, not literally, or literally, I should say, not figuratively. I also want to mention that our Metro North Railroad Commuter Council member, Rhonda Herman, has been named to the MTA Sustainability Advisory Work Group, a temporary body that was established in the past state budget and tasked with making recommendations by the end of 2018 on strategies to improve and fund public transit in the New York City region. Rhonda was appointed to the work group. Well, it's called work group. It's an odd word, but work group by the governor, and joins 9 other members appointed through the governor, the state Senate Assembly, state and city departments of transportation, and the New York City mayor. There have been a number of similar groups convened, and in the past, these groups have come to remarkably consistent conclusions about the need for increased transportation funding and the necessity of developing a funding source for transit and traffic mitigation through the use of road pricing. We hope that the recommendations of the current body have a greater impact on the elected officials who approve MTA funding legislation than those of past groups, which wouldn't be hard, right? There's even greater urgency to identify new MTA funding sources than before, as momentum seems to be building for the MTA to forego the fare and toll increases included in its July financial plan. This document contains the first look at next year's proposed budget and predicts large out-year deficits, even with increased fare revenue. As it stands now, both the leading Democratic candidates for governor have called for suspending the MTA increases, while the presumptive Republican nominee for governor has also spoken out in favor of a freeze on fare increases, going so far as to discuss expansion of the city's fair fare programs using state funds. Adding his voice to the discussion is New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, who last week warned that he would oppose efforts to put the cost of a fare freeze on the back of the city's treasury. We have for many years raised the alarm about the growing unaffordability of the MTA's buses, subways, and trains for an increasing proportion of riders. I keep saying if you take the 4% every other year fare increases to their logical conclusion, at some point you'll have a $25 fare and $50 tolls. A freeze on fare increases is positive so long as there is funding available to advance critical programs and provide the service that riders need. I've often said while we are extremely concerned with fares and the affordability of public transportation, riders are even more worried about the availability of adequate levels and quality of transit service necessary to take them to and from work, school, shopping, medical appointments, family obligations, and everywhere else that they need to go. It has been a very active summer where issues with performance and scheduling have tormented riders on both the commuter rails and New York City Transit, and we won't even go into New Jersey Transit, where it's been the real summer of hell. While last year's dreaded summer of hell was not as bad as riders anticipated, infrastructure and equipment problems, together with a dash of bad weather, have this summer conspired to delay and frustrate riders across the MTA system. The new leaders at New York City Transit have formalized ambitious plans to improve their systems in ways that will benefit their riders under the umbrella of the Fast Forward plan. New York City Transit President Andy Byford has launched a series of town hall meetings in each of the boroughs to discuss his Fast Forward plan and its potential for turning around New York City Transit, as well as beginning a dialogue on the redesign of the Bronx bus network and continuing the conversation about what will happen during the L train shutdown with affected communities. And the more of these town halls that President Byford holds in various neighborhoods, the more constituency is grown to push for funding for this Fast Forward plan, which by no means is cheap, but there's even more cost to not doing it. I think we all know that. At the Long Island Railroad, President Phil Eng and his staff have developed their own Long Island Railroad Forward plan that emphasizes addressing critical issues sooner rather than waiting for a future capital project to fix them. On the positive side, major infrastructure work is being completed on the system, and the Ronkonkoma Branch double track project wrapping up. That should be done now. Station enhancements underway, and East Side Access and Mainline third track projects progressing toward completion by the early part of 2020s. President Eng and staff have also made efforts to reach out to riders and the larger community with larger customer conversations, as well as events held in local stations. President Eng has a major task ahead of him, since if present trends hold, 2018 will see the Long Island Railroad's worst on-time performance in 2 decades. On Metro North, President Catherine Rinaldi has not developed a new grand plan for railroad improvements, but is carrying on the existing program of upgrades and repairs that had been in place under former President Joe Giletti, while adding new initiatives such as station improvements and Penn Station Access project that we will hear about today. Metro North, under President Rinaldi, also launched its Connect With Us series, which is a set of informal gatherings where representatives of customer services departments and some senior management executives are available to speak to riders. These sessions will be held at different stations, usually in mornings. In addition to these efforts at the operating agencies, the MTA remains under the Governor's State of Emergency Declaration, which gives MTA management expanded powers to act without prior board authorization. That has come up numerous times at board meetings, and the board has even gone so far as to say we would meet more frequently, or we would bring these things, on a timely basis to us, and we will make sure we approve them. That has not yet happened. While there have been questions raised about the appropriateness of a continuing emergency declaration, like I asked and others have asked, when is the emergency considered over? MTA board members have asserted their oversight role. The current situation shows few signs of change. In addition, lower fare revenues and spending on new priorities are severely stressing the current MTA budget. The MTA has launched beta versions of its bus, subway, and commuter rail app and its new website. There is broad support for integrating the MTA's agency's apps into a single package, and the new app will provide some valuable features. The app and new website, however, are definitely works in progress that can benefit greatly from rider input. PCAC staff and I have met with the app and website product leadership and made a number of comments on the pre-release products. The designers have included the ability to provide feedback in the public beta version of the website and app, which can be accessed through the web address new.mta.info. Anyone that hasn't been on that, check it out, and you'll see what we mean by not ready for prime time. I encourage all of our members, there are some good points, there's no doubt about it, and of course it has real-time info and real-time geo stuff in it, which is important. I encourage everyone to try these online tools and lend their voices to the development process. Let's move into the chair's reports. Long Island Railroad, Ira, are you going to handle that one? You should.
Better.
You must. Or just point out the important parts, yeah.
You're rich.
All of you have a copy of the
Yes.
report.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Marilyn Patterson isn't here, so I guess I'll wait to the next meeting to introduce her. She's one of our new members. I think we mentioned her at the last PCAC meeting. She has come to our community council meetings. We had some good news this week. 13 Long Island Railroad trains that had been canceled, diverted, or had stops reduced since the beginning of the year were restored to their normal schedules on Tuesday. These changes were made possible by completion of the construction projects, including recent work in Harold interlocking. Amtrak completed its work in Penn Station, and I'm happy to say, and you could read in the report, is that the remaining work by Amtrak
He's
at
only
Penn
doing the,
Station
highlights.
will only occur on nights and weekends, so they say at this point. I mean, we're waiting, and so that we should not expect any more significant effects to Long Island Railroad service. Long Island Railroad did announce completion of the double track project on time. That's the Ronkonkoma branch. So we look forward to increased service as well as much more reliable service there, having the two tracks.
And peak reverse service, which will be a first.
Yeah, I suppose so. Anyway. No, well, to be honest, and later on, we mentioned third track is really key to doing any reverse peak service on Long Island. I mean, they could run short trains, but I think if you're coming from Queens or Manhattan and you're trying to get east, you're gonna have to wait for, that's the key. Third track is the key there. But President Filling was our guest at the July and August meetings. The July appearance was a scheduled one, and our members met with Filling to discuss new initiatives at the Long Island Railroad, and we had a very good dialogue with him about the direction of the railroad. President Filling's appearance at our August meeting was more impromptu in nature, and it's because there were some changes to top staff, and we discussed that with him. And he also wanted to brief us on some issues as things are constantly changing at the railroad, and I think we're looking forward to seeing some improvements. We appreciate Filling meeting with us, but also more important, he's made a lot of efforts to communicate with the passengers and get really in touch with what's going on day to day and the struggles, and he's moving ahead with some solutions to do that. Long Island Railroad announced a new service known as Long Island Railroad Care, which is really a reinvention of what's the old thing called? Call Ahead, which didn't sound that great. But it's designed to provide staff member to assist riders with mobility issues who need help boarding or exiting trains. Long Island Railroad Care personnel will coordinate with Long Island Railroad staff, such as conductors who are responsible for deplaning. Oh, yeah, the bridge plates. Long Island Railroad Care is available 24 hours a day, which is important all year. It also shortens the lead time required to receive assistance. You can call up to 15 minutes before, maybe even shorter. But there's people available at Penn Station, Atlantic Terminal in Jamaica, customer service ambassadors who are going to help. They're on duty 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., not 24 hours, and they're there to assist riders with mobility issues. For regular Long Island Railroad,
Ira, keep in mind that we did all receive this, just so you don't have to do the whole thing. We just wanted you to pull out some highlights if you could.
Goodbye. I mean, I don't have to say anything. Anyway, there's also one thing important here is that the platforms at Forest Hills and Kew Gardens, which are very short,
Very important.
they're being lengthened to 6 cars because right now, a train will pull in, have to stop. People are asked to walk up. Even if an announcement's made, you wind up with people walking up the train. It delays the trains. It's a main line. It has a severe impact.
Yeah, it definitely delays
completion-
trains.
The completion of work at Harold is in conjunction with East Side Access, and it'll offer there'll be some really good benefits there. So we hear the reconfiguration of the tracks at Harold should allow much more flexibility when there's a problem either with the signal system or even on a track. There's easier ways to reroute trains around them. So we're looking forward to the better service there. There's something in here about the Lefferts Boulevard overpass that people in New York City maybe are familiar with it. There's stores on Lefferts Boulevard. It's actually Lefferts Boulevard itself over the railroad is DOT, New York City DOT.
At Kew Garden
but
Station.
the stores there at the Kew Garden Station are really part of the Long Island Railroad Bridge. And this is an ongoing problem with the deterioration of this bridge. $1 million was, I think, appropriated by a was obtained by a city council member, and Phil Eng was instrumental in using that money actually to shore up the bridge rather than just do a study. So that's a good thing for people who live in that. Actually, I sometimes go to the theater there, so that's good. In June, Mark met with Nassau County legislator Arnold Drucker, who represents a district that stretches east from Roslyn Heights to Nassau-Suffolk border. They discussed a number of issues affecting communities in the area, most notably the need for additional affordable commuter parking. We also discussed our open position in Nassau County, and he said he would try to make sure that someone gets appointed to that. Let's see what else we have here. One issue that, there's many issues with Long Island Railroad grade crossings. We have more grade crossings than Metro North, and of course, we also have, it's very densely populated, so that's always been a perennial problem. Third track will eliminate all those on the main line. But there's issue, we're currently, the MTA currently is working with Waze, and I think they really got they finally got a hookup with that, so that people will not, when there's a road next to the track, often it'll say turn right, and people will turn right onto a railroad track.
Which, without looking, brilliant, but that's what they do.
Well, at night they're not seeing, they maybe new to the area. They're stuck with this. They rely on these things. Maybe it's too much to a degree. They're distractions also. But now it'll give a warning that there's a railroad track right there, so people should be alert and watch out. So it'll prevent those type of things. Since Phil Eng has come in, I said there's been several new initiatives he's taken. The railroad has increased its outreach to Rise with several informational events and stations, in addition to 2 more formal sessions called Customer Conversations, which were held in late May. Bill and Mark attended the one in Nassau County. Jerry Brinkman covered the one in Suffolk County on behalf of our council. These sessions had the joint purposes of giving riders the ability to talk with Long Island Railroad staff individually to hear President Eng present the larger picture of his new approach, and to give community representatives, elected officials, and individual riders opportunity to ask questions about the railroad. Attendance hasn't been great at them. That's why it's important to get out on Long Island Railroad. It's important to get out to the stations. I think Phil has been doing that.
That's it?
No, there's a little bit. There was a lot more here. I'm actually impressed with this. Bill was very thorough.
But we have it all. We all have it. I was hoping you would do the highlights, but you've done it all.
No, I want to make sure people hear some of this. He wrote up all this stuff. It's really good, and some of it covers, I mean, the Long Island Railroad Forward is the project to improve Long Island Railroad service. I think they're really moving ahead. I think they're moving ahead personally pretty well with that. Let's see if it's reflected in on-time performance in the coming months. I mean, it addresses everything from rolling stock to signal problems, which we hear way too much of. And it also the other thing it's addressing, I don't know if anyone's been on the railroad, but right now you can see that they have countdown clocks. Whether they're accurate or not is a whole nother question, but at least we have them now. No, there's been our council has noted some issues, but I think they're going to increase what they call timing points so that they can become more accurate. Phil has been very good about keeping us up to date on that. And I think that's it, since Andrew has asked me to conclude about 3 times in the middle of this. Oh, the Summer Sun, wait, I do want to advertise the Summer Saturdays program.
You can't have people that interrupt you arrested just yet.
That's right. The Summer Saturdays program, people should take a look at that. If anyone doesn't know, actually it's over. It was just July, August, for people that you could $1 per person each way. If you're a regular commuter, you could bring on whoever you want. It used to be just really, it's all year round. Children, I forget what it was, under 10? Under 11, it should be under 13. That's bar mitzvah age, but I never got that. Maybe in the next tariff we could get that, Ronnie. But it was during the summer. You could bring on as many people, even old, young. You could bring older people. So I know Mitch Pally like that because he always goes into town into Queens with his in-laws. Right. Okay, I'm going to conclude there with that little advertisement.
Thank you, Ira.
No,
have a
I'm not
question?
answering questions.
I have a question for Ira.
I don't have an answer for you, Trudy. I'm sorry.
I hope you do.
You're gonna ask it anyway.
On behalf of all of the Transit Riders Council and everybody who rides the subways, I was very happy to hear on this morning's news, the very local news that goes on at 6 a.m., that the Long Island railroads on-time schedule and is the worst that it's had in 18 years. And so I wondered if you had, and that it is even worse than the New York City transit record right now. I was wondering if you had any comment on that.
I don't think you can compare the two because one's a railroad, one's a transit system. I don't know how they managed to do that because they're both not.
Obviously fake news, right?
Trudy, as I said at the last board meeting, I said it in board briefings, neither system is meeting its goal. There are clearly goals, and they're on every report that's given to the MTA board for each line, and management has admitted they're not meeting the goals for whether it's transit or whether for the line or railroad. There are actions being taken. I think it's taken longer than I would have hoped to improve service, but we'll see. I mean, I have other than, getting out there and trying to remedy the problems.
Okay.
Thank
I mean,
you,
if
Ira.
you want to know, you want a bigger answer? I was on a train
No, I
myself
don't.
that
No.
got delayed from Brooklyn Terminal, and it was because of an old M3
Folks,
car
we
failed.
do have some
So-
time constraints today. Chris, did you want to ask
well,
something?
You don't have to.
Well, I'm sorry, Ira. This has to be not been answered back yet. I just sent you an email as well. Atlantic Avenue Station, as you see the waiting area, it's crumbling.
Atlantic Terminal.
Yes, the Atlantic Terminal, it's crumbling. And lucky no one got hurt yet. Now they're putting a garbage can because now I'm seeing the debris coming down. Instead of snowing, debris's coming.
I'll forward your email to Phil and
Well,
ask him to address the problem.
just the
Stuart?
problem, but even the management there has been put it in like constantly, and I'm still, even when it
Chris,
comes.
you know that I've discussed this with
I know.
Phil and with Eric Adams, and there's DOT work being done in the street, which is causing debris to come down as well. So it's a coordination of many different agencies
Well, where they're
involved here.
doing, I don't see them doing anything over there.
That's what I've been told.
There's nothing over there because I was out there yesterday and even this
We'll
morning.
get you an answer. Stuart, did you want to say something?
Yeah, two things really quickly. Has your group gotten any official feedback from the railroad about the success or lack of success of the Freedom ticket? Atlantic ticket?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen anything, and no, our community council hasn't.
They haven't
Yes.
shared anything with you?
No.
And really, frankly, August and
I'm not saying about, they collect monthly data.
We're due to get an update on the sales.
I'm asking if they brief them. The answer's no. We're moving on.
The answer's
The
no.
next question was, you mentioned countdown clocks. The ones that you have on the railroad, are they also buttressed with announcements?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
so-
there are announcements.
Right, so we should be looking at what they have because there's someone on a larger scale looking at the reality of the times and making adjustments in real time with verbiage if something is off kilter.
Okay.
Well,
I ride the railroad regularly.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that they make announcements if a train is late and the board
Yes.
is incorrect. Right.
yes, that's
not
a
done
that's a
in the
relative. That's
transit
relative.
system with the
Oh,
rate.
that's true. Yes.
Okay.
That's
So
right.
it's
That
some-
is relatively new. I see.
It's a best practice that we should be looking at. That's
Okay.
correct. Okay.
He's saying
Thank you, gentlemen. Folks, we have a little change to the agenda now. We're going to suspend the council chair reports because Ronnie Hakam, MTA Managing Director, is here, and she's got limited time. We're going to be saying a number of items about Bill, as this is his last full PCAC meeting. Ronnie, did you want to start off, and then I'll follow you because I know your time is really limited. Thank you for coming by.
Okay. Bill Henderson. Woo-hoo! So Andrew told me this morning that this was going to be Bill's last full PCAC meeting, and I wanted to take the opportunity to say on behalf of the Office of the Chairman and Chairman Loda, Bill, you have had, dedicated years of service. People out there have no idea how important and valuable groups like this are and how your leadership has in fact translated into policy information and impacts. And so, even, I'm not even sure you're all necessarily aware of the phone calls, the notes, a quick email that Bill might send or Andrew might reach out to me. And I think it's critically important that we acknowledge the value of your leadership for PCAC. You had small but big shoes to fill, right? But you did so really admirably, and on our behalf, we thank you. So thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, Ronnie. We understand. There's a few things. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Thanks. Thank you so much, Ronnie. So, it's really tough to have enough or the right words to say about what Bill has done for this organization. He's handled so many tasks. This organization requires an awful lot of tasks. Preparing the agendas, writing chairs reports, speaking at board and committee meetings. What's that? Arranging meetings, absolutely. I mean, it just keeps going on. Preparing documents. His writing style has been wonderful. Handling all of us, which is not the easiest group to handle. We have some very difficult people amongst us, myself included. He's handled it with grace, with humor. It's really going to be the end of an era, and we really can't say thank you enough, Bill. We've got a host of things that we're going to be giving to you, but I know a few others would like to say something as well. Randy?
All right, so I'm going to start off with my report is that I wanted to congratulate you on your upcoming retirement. Thank you for your guidance during my tenure as probably the person who became the PCAC chair with the least amount of time, just over 3 years, but you guided me well through it, and I thank you for that. And I feel that we accomplished a lot in that time, and wish you a long, happy, and most of all, healthy retirement. So the next one is from my predecessor, Steve Lofthouse. Congratulations on your retirement. Thanks for all the good work you have done for MTA commuters as executive director of the PCAC. Although I missed being with the council after I moved to New Jersey in 2007, I know that I have left my Rockland County seat in good hands with me. Well, I'm not going to read that. Anyway, best wishes as you begin the next chapter of your life. I have a very nice one here from Francis Corcoran, also still a member of the Metro North Council. Dear Bill, unfortunately, I'm unable to attend today's meeting. I wish to express on the record my deep appreciation and thanks for all that you have done over these many years for the councils and its members. I especially want to praise you for all you have done on behalf of the ridership of the MTA. I can remember back to the first day you started and first meeting you attended. Today we say goodbye and wish you good luck. How time quickly flies. In your time with the PCAC, you and your staff have accomplished quite a great deal and have taken the office and the work it does to new levels. You should be very proud of all that you have accomplished and all the work that you have done. I know that I'm very proud of you and all your staff and you have done. You're a great man, and we are also fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with you. Personally, it was my great honor and privilege to have known you and worked with you, and most importantly, to call you friend. Bill, I wish you all the best in all you seek. We are going to miss you very much and hope that you will keep in touch. Be well, and Godspeed, my friend. And
Who's that one from?
Francis Corcoran.
Oh, okay.
And the last one is an email from Rhonda Herman. And she says, I'm so sorry, but I cannot attend the meeting, but do wish Bill as well as he moves into the next phase of his life. Bill was very welcoming to me when I came on board as a member of the MNRCC, and this was important as I was the only woman and the only African-American at the moment in time. His personality and easygoing style made my transition to this role that much easier. Signed, Rhonda.
Anybody else want to say? Trudy, go ahead.
I am probably the only person in this room and maybe at the MTA and probably in New York who has actually been to Bill's retirement home in Pahrump. And what you don't know is that Pahrump is the home of the best little whorehouse in Nevada. Where, what was I? It's true, right? Bill, am I telling the truth? Yeah. We, two of them. Well, I was only at one of them. I was only at one of them. I was only at one of them and then was also arrested in Tonopah, which is right near his house, too. So I intend to, at some point, come out and not that I haven't made his life miserable all these years, even though it's also been a lot of fun and we actually got some things accomplished. But I will be out to visit Bill and the whorehouse. Now, you may ask why I was at this whorehouse. So, though some people have called me
Nobody's asking.
other names. No, actually, it was for a very serious thing. We were demonstrating out at against nuclear testing in Mercury, Nevada, which is also near where Bill is going to be living. And there were, all of us got arrested, including people like Casey Kasem, my friend Pete Yarrow, and a whole bunch of others, and Dan Ellsberg. And they were all transported to Tonopah, to the jail. And I needed a place that had a telephone. This was before cell phones or anything like that. And the only active telephone was at the whorehouse in Pahrump. So, so it has a special place in my heart, in my head. And Bill, we really all okay, I know I have been difficult at times, but it's really been a pleasure to be working with you. You followed in some very, very smaller footsteps of Beverly Dolinsky, but you have done her proud, and you have done all of us proud. So thank you.
Chris?
Bill, for the 8 years I've been on this Transit Riders Council, and you and I been working on a lot of things, helping. And when you attended some of the meetings that you've been always there at the Family Support Fair, a lot of the fairs, a lot of events, a lot of meetings. And we did get some things accomplished. We did get a lot of people to know who we are, what we do. But I have to say, the Atlantic ticket was one of the biggest I think we ever did, and it was a big accomplishment. And I have to say that it was a real honor to work with you for the 8 years, and I will definitely miss you. I know Sheila, Bradley, all the staff, and our other special guest star behind us, Angela, will all miss you. But I have to say, it was a great honor to working with you all these years. Thank you.
Ira?
Well, Bill, I've been here longer than you have. Not much. Not like Trudy. But that was great. Trudy, you stole the show. That's all I have to say with that whorehouse. The relevance was fantastic. I never dreamed that would be the end of this. Bill, on behalf of the long.
We are talking something that's influenced by New York politics, so there is relevance there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Anyway, but I remember our years together when I was chair of PCAC and also just the whole Long Island Communities Council tenure of the things you did, and we're always responsive to all of our members, even when sometimes there was a back and forth and there was a debate. The Minutes Matter report was certainly extremely important to me, and the follow-up that you started, the ideas that you had, that sheet, which I think we're going to try to follow up after you leave. I really appreciated that. Being very responsive to our Communities Council was very helpful to all of us on our council. We really appreciated that. And the follow-up to all the questions and the things that had to be done over the years. I remember them with great fondness. So on behalf of the Long Island Communities Council, all the members, best wishes and good luck, and enjoy retirement. And you don't have to think about it at all.
Well, I'll actually be seeing you guys again. I think we're gonna have that meeting on the 20th, so.
Yes, Bert.
I prepared something here about a side of Bill that most of us got to know but didn't realize what he was doing. He's been able to find us some great gastronomic locations throughout the city on our field trips. And if you have a couple of minutes, I went back and thought about them.
Oh, jeez.
We went to deepest, darkest Brooklyn on one of our trips to see the Coney Island station. And Bill found an apparently well-known pizza restaurant where we ate outside. Well, Bill personally brought one pizza after another from the delivery area so that while we sweltered in the August heat, we ate well. On another trip, we went to see the construction of the Second Avenue subway station at 86th Street. And after climbing back up what I believe was almost 200 steps to the street level because there were no elevators, Bill led us to a local coffee shop on Second Avenue, which we enjoyed. A large menu. We had a similar experience when we went to the subway police headquarters in Brooklyn to view what they had there. And then he marched us off to Junior's, where we ate so much and we had so many orders of things to try that I think half the members took doggy bags home afterwards to finish out what we were eating. My favorite trip probably was when we went out to deepest, darkest Queens to view a subway line, a railroad line that was going to be lowered because the cars kept hitting the bridge. And from there, he managed to have our bus take us to some restaurant, which I still have no idea where we were. But it had a huge, high ceiling, and I remember we were about
Yeah, it
6
was in
times the
Ridgewood.
number of people in the restaurant. Now, how Bill found this place, I have no idea. One other place we went to was the subway maintenance facility, school facility on 14th Street. And after seeing that operation, Bill marched us up 14th Street in the grueling sun. The other side of the street was in the shade, but he put us on the north side to a major coffee shop, size of which I've never seen. And finally, last month, we went to the west side to see the bus barn where we looked at 3 new buses. And then Bill found us a place to eat on 10th Avenue and 44th Street where we had Mediterranean food. Most of us had never seen what they served, but it was very good. So all in all, I think Bill has done a wonderful job in helping our stomachs. And I want to thank him for all the work that went into all those field trips. Thank you.
Deborah, and then Mr. X.
Bill, okay. On behalf of the Office of Persons with Developmental Disabilities and Siam State Rep, our acting commissioner, Kerry Delaney, thanks you very much for the help and support. They appreciated you go to the family support fairs. They appreciate that when individuals with their families who had developmental disabilities, there were issues, you looked into it, you helped them. Most of all, the professionals, our workers, are thrilled with the Atlantic ticket because it has saved them their jobs. Because you see now being able to because a lot of them work in Queens, but they have to get to Brooklyn or to another part of Queens. And they're in the areas where if you took regular subway or bus, it'd be 3 hours. Now they're making it back and forth, and they've been able to retain their jobs, and that's a very important thing in our population where staff turnover is tremendous. So we want to thank you. We congratulate you on your retirement. We're going to miss you, but it's a heartfelt thanks from the professionals, the parents, and the advocates. So thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you again.
Mr. X.
You want me to sign your card? I'll be more than happy to. Last 3 years, I had problems here. I told you, and you ignored me. So maybe it's better you're retiring. Hopefully, your successor won't repeat what you did, won't repeat what Douglas Sussman did, when we repeat what Ronnie Hakeem did, etc. Okay? I could tell you what a bedtime story, Wenderson, but there's one small problem. You're too big to sit on my lap. Okay?
Well,
So, as I said, you want to sign your card? I'll sign your card. Give it to me later today. I'll be more than happy, beyond happy to sign it. As I said, I hope your successor won't make the same careless mistakes you and your tag team partner did. The two of you remind me of Gilligan and Skip from Gilligan's Island. You know, if I tell you I encounter a problem here, the least you could do is share my concerns.
All right,
But if you
well-
want to ignore me, that's fine with me.
you got your point made. Thank you.
I don't think I did.
Matt, you want to say something? Then we're going to move to Ellen, who's going to make.
Bill, I'm really going to miss you. You are the hardest working man here, and you have your right-hand man, Andrew, to thank for that.
Thanks to everybody for the. Oh, Deborah, you want to say something? Well, come on up, Deborah.
I appreciate your congeniality and your professionalism. We enjoyed some great laughs together over time, and you and I together figured out how to work everything through. I think you helped me maintain my sanity at times, and I helped you maintain yours. So I wish you the best, the very best during your retirement. You deserve it. Enjoy.
Thank you. Ellen, you want to please go on?
So we have a resolution, and the staff now would like to put it forward that I'd like to read to you, Bill.
I didn't have to write it either.
No, you didn't. Whereas William Henderson has served as Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA since December 26, 2006. And whereas Bill has served the PCAC with distinction as a strong advocate for Long Island Railroad, New York City Transit, and Metro North Railroad riders, and whereas Bill has knowledgeably and ably represented the interests of the residents of the MTA region, and whereas Bill is retiring from the PCAC and has submitted his resignation from the PCAC, and whereas the staff of the PCAC and its council members wish to express to Bill Henderson their great affection for his witty humor, his vast and detailed knowledge and insights, and his endless kindness, as well as their great appreciation for his contributions to the PCAC and the MTA riders. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the staff and council members of the PCAC commend William Henderson for his years of service as the executive director of the PCAC, and thanks to his dedication on behalf of the PCAC staff and members, and wish him well in his new home and his future travels and endeavors. Approved by the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA and staff this 6th day of September 2018. That's it. Do we have a few goodies? Okay. I'll just go through a couple. All right. So many of you may know that Bill likes to go on cruises. And we just wanted to be sure you kept remembering us. So, and we understand that you dress up for dinner sometimes on those cruises. And here are two things that to remember us by. You can open that one. Yeah.
Should I open or?
Open. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
That was. And it's inscribed on the back. There was.
Tie bar.
It's the tie bar.
Tie bar. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's inscribed in the back.
It's got an inscription. It's very.
You may need a
Very
magnifying.
nice.
It says,
No, I
"Thank
can
you, Bill."
thank you, Bill. And
XO.
oh, XO.
XO.
I can read it. Yeah, now I got it. Now I got the right angle.
You got the angle. Okay.
It's very nice, and I do intend to wear a tie, 4 or 5 times.
a year.
So when I wear the tie, I
You'll keep the clip with it?
clip
and-
on it. So clip on there.
There you go. And this'll go with that.
Yes.
Um,
And always look, when I get older, I'll just, yeah, Bill.
Just to remind you who you are. Yeah.
And Bill, while you were here, we know that you probably needed many glasses of wine, but we thought that you and Vicki might enjoy a few trips to the winery out in Pahrump, and so that this could provide you with some nice dinners
Oh, my
out
God.
there. So, do you know her? I figured you were out there talking to her already. Yeah. So that was, so that's
No,
from
it's
all
from
of
the
us.
budget.
Um,
There's plenty of money.
and these are a few more items. Is that, Andrew?
You can just describe them briefly.
Describe what they are.
You don't have to open them.
They're things to remind you of the transit system, the MTA system, and to enjoy and keep thinking about us. Yeah. But thank you very much, and you're going to be teaching.
Do I get to say anything?
You certainly can.
I'll make it quick. I'll make it quick. Anyway, we've done a few things. I mean, for the MTA and its agencies, I think we've advised them well and responsibly, and I think that's really what we're here for. The members, I mean, we get paid for this. You guys don't, and we really appreciate that you come to these meetings and you participate and you work on projects and things like that, and you do it for the good of the system. On the staff level, we've managed to go from poverty to merely low-paid workers. So we're making some progress there, and eventually maybe folks will be recognized for their true worth to the MTA. But Ronnie's gone. I should have said that when she was here. But anyway, I thank everybody here. I've enjoyed it. It's you don't have to hit me. You don't have to run me over twice to let me know that it's time to do a new chapter in life, and that's what I'm doing. But it doesn't reflect on my enjoyment of being here and the job we've done and the times we've had together. And as I say, I appreciate everybody here and what they've done for the organization, for the system. Thanks.
To get back to the, Edith. Edith, did you want to say something?
Press the Long Island report.
Please.
Question. A major problem, particularly in the on the Port Jeff line beyond Huntington, the absolute lack of announcements, and the LCD signs most times do not work on the diesels. Right. It's supposed to be fixing them. Yeah. Right. But it's very problematic because the conductors do not even make an attempt to pass through to make announcements. And it's very confusing for many non-regular riders, particularly on weekends.
And this happened to you, I assume, several times? So
I've only been riding the Long Island independently for over 50 years.
So Edith, when this happens,
I have
as you're leaving the
reported it, yes.
train, do you talk to the conductor and say?
Yes.
And what's their response, just out of curiosity?
They're supposed to be fixing them. I don't know if they bothered using the PA system.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen the signs off, but I thought they would make announcements at least.
No.
I mean, this is another thing that Bill did that people didn't realize.
I have raised this.
People phone in these kinds of events or incorrect announcements or lack of announcements or poorly functioning equipment to Bill, and Bill gets them to the proper place. And I encourage everyone to still do it to Bill while.
Call me out in Nevada. Say,
Don't, yeah.
The two train, I had to wait 10 minutes for a two train this afternoon.
No, I mean, it's important, whoever's sitting in that seat, that we be able to communicate this to management, obviously.
And, I really don't think they bother making announcements.
I'm sure Ira will get this message to Phil
Thank
Lang, if
you.
not somebody else.
Thank you.
Yes. Randy, do you want to give the Metro North?
We have a celebratory.
Yeah, so who's going to cut it?
So we're going to cut it.
Okay. And
Deborah made a cake.
It's chocolate, right?
Okay, I'll make this quick. You all have it. It's important to recognize that Metro North was honored by APTA, the American Public Transportation Association, with a safety award in June for the TRACS program, and you can read the details of it. Rhonda Herman, who lives up in the White Plains area, reported that at the start of the White Plains construction work, there was a lot of confusion. People didn't know what they were doing. Her report was sent to Metro North, and they responded and took care of it, and that project is going to wind up very soon. I don't want to spend a lot of time on west of Hudson, but this is the first time in all the years I've been aware that Metro North has really paid attention to west of Hudson's issues, and they've been very, very responsive. Actually, it was August 22nd, the President, Kathy Rinaldi, sent a letter and email to the Executive Director of NJ Transit, warning them that they would start withholding payments for canceled trains. That's my head. Last week, we were perfect. So far this
Wow.
week,
what do you know?
Okay.
I wonder if it was that
so anyway,
thread.
there have been very minor delays, but, we can live with that. One other little screw up about something that's in the report with the missed connection of a late train out of New York, which caused our only express train riders in the evening to have to ride on the local train, which delayed their commute home by more than a half an hour. And the situation in New Jersey is not going to get better anytime soon. They're short 50 engineers. It's been well documented in the press, and the media has been covering it. So they're going to be in a hole for a very long time, unfortunately.
Is that because there was a cohort hired many years ago?
I'm sorry?
Is that because?
Yes, they didn't hire any for many years.
They didn't hire
The
any.
previous administration.
And now they're retiring.
And
And they don't pay
or
as
they're
well.
going to work in other
They don't pay
places,
as well.
like
They're
Metro
going to
North. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they received 12 from Metro North, not as lot as they tried to claim, but yes, there was just a lack of interest on the previous administration and the governor. And the rest of the stuff here is about Grand Central, so it's all in here, and you can read it at your convenience. Thank you.
And very briefly on the transit riders, everybody's trying to get prepared for the April 2019 shutdown of the L line. There are a lot of pre-April 2019 GOs happening. They're actually, in many ways, worse than the actual shutdown will be because they're all the way from Broadway Junction to 8th Avenue as opposed to Bedford Avenue to 8th Avenue, which is what the full-time closure shutdown will be. In addition, some of the free, new, out-of-system transfers that will be in effect for the main shutdown are not yet in effect, like Junius Livonia, Hughes Street, Broadway, 21st Street, Hunters Point, and Long Island City. All of those things are not in effect yet. So these, pre-major L train shutdown weekend GOs are in many ways worse than the thing. We will see what happens. There is still groups in the village fighting the bus plan and the bike plan, and so that remains to be worked out. There's the group that has filed a lawsuit doesn't appear to have moved forward with that, so there has not been a court date scheduled. And Andy Byford is getting ready to hold numerous meetings in the Bronx for the redesign of the Bronx, both local and express bus network. In Staten Island, remember, it had just been the express bus network that was redesigned there. And I'm going to end there because our guests are here. Chris?
Just to add also to your report that now Avenue R is now open as of yesterday. DOT just this morning, Andrew, you had that on your email. Now DOT finally put the signs up, thanks to our commissioner from Brooklyn who had to yell at them, and thank you for responding back by Trottenberg to make sure those signs were up ASAP. So the SBS 44 now stops at Avenue R as an additional.
Fabulous, wonderful.
And you also left out Byford's Brooklyn Town Hall is on September 25th. Coming up. It's on
Okay.
their website.
Great. Yes, Edith. Microphone, please.
I would just like to raise a lot of work is being done on elevators that, it's maintenance. It's not broken, it's maintenance.
Yep.
And it was sort of interesting because the A train going at J Street, MetroTech, was out this morning. It was just like, because they're not maintenance, their maintenance, not broken elevators, if they're coming back in service at 1 in the afternoon. Borough Hall, it was like every elevator I went to, going to or from Brooklyn this morning, was out of service. And I think that's a real indication.
All along the A line?
Well, because the elevator was down at Metro North, at
Metro
MetroTech, I decided to try to take Borough Hall back in instead. But that elevator was down also.
Are we talking the 2-3 or the 4-5?
Both.
Okay.
It's and they don't necessarily appear on the list because they're working at 5 in the morning. They take them out of work sometime between 5 and 9. So I think that there's a problem.
There's a program that supposedly sends you a text when an elevator is out. They don't do it for
No.
these-
The issue is the elevator wasn't out when I checked this morning when I checked at 5:30.
I see.
It was running.
But then en route, they took it out.
And and it's very
So what you
problematic.
need is real-time indication of elevators. That's what we need. And the program doesn't have that as of right now, correct?
It doesn't seem to.
Let
I'd like to mention the in the beta in my MTA. For example, if you look at the it says for J Street MetroTech, it listed as an R elevator. It doesn't list all the elevators that are there. So that's very confusing to people who know they're taking an A.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of a problem.
It listed as an R-only elevator?
It listed as an R only. I met with,
Is it from the R platform to the R mezzanine? Is that why it's listed that way, maybe? Even though it's part of the J Street MetroTech complex? No?
I was trip planning on the A.
Yeah.
There was no R at all in my trip. There are problems with the trip planner still in that it doesn't like that I'm going to wheel 3/4 of a mile to the subway. So I have to use, an address on 177th Street. But there is a very distinct number of legs that it'll give you in a trip. And we need to work with whoever that is, because if I wheel 3/4 of a mile to get to the subway, it doesn't give me that trip.
That's one of the many things wrong
One of the
with
many
it.
things wrong with it. I
It also
agree with
doesn't
you.
think like a New Yorker. Nowhere, if you plot a journey, does it have you switching from from a local to an express or vice versa.
Right.
It's one or the other the whole way, and that's not the way New Yorkers think.
So I think it's worse in the beta than it was in the original, and I would like to suggest that, we have a meeting on this topic. Because,
Yes.
if this is going to be the great new world,
I think when we've raised these issues with them, they have been very clear. This is a work in progress, and we tell them, it's not ready for prime time yet, but they wanted to get it out, and they said, send us your comments. And I know people are sending comments similar to what you're sending. I know it.
but the issue is,
Are they going to do anything?
No, even basicer than that. In the-
Basicer than that?
Yes, basicer than that. They used to have where you could send an email comment about this trip plan. Here's the trip here's the route they gave me, the itinerary. That's gone.
That's
So you
interesting.
can't.
Then we definitely need a meeting on this topic.
Yeah, we
That, they shouldn't take away something. That's,
that actually was very
yeah,
functional.
no, that's no good. All right.
Andrew,
Yeah, we got to
on
move
the
on. Our speakers are here and they've been
Okay,
waiting.
very quickly, since Edith brought it up yesterday, there's one other thing lacking. Yesterday, I had to go from the Upper East Side and a number of other people to an event at Katz's.
I didn't
on
even
the-
try.
On the Lower East Side, on Houston Street. And with our wonderful new Second Avenue subway, they said very nicely, you can take the F train and get off at Second Avenue. What they didn't mention was that, and get out of the Houston Street exit. Well, it turns out on either end of the station, and they're like almost 3 city blocks long. It's a very long station. Both sides say Houston Street. Only one is Christie Street and one is Allen Street. So unless they gave you the location that it's closer to Allen Street, or said stay in the front of the train or the back of the train, because I and all the people that I gave these directions
What was your destination station?
What?
What was your destination station?
It was Second Avenue on the F.
Oh, okay.
Houston
Yeah, that
Street.
runs along
But
Houston,
there are,
First and
but
Second
it's a
Avenue, yeah.
long, long station.
Yep.
All I'm saying is, when they are giving you directions, it might be a good idea if they say get out of there are 2 Houston Street
Yeah, there's
exits,
a first and
and
a
get
second
out of the
on
one
Avenue,
that
yeah.
says Houston and
I
Allen.
agree.
Not the other. I mean, there are all these little
Whenever I give
nuances.
someone directions, I tell them which end of the
No,
station.
but I know, and you do.
Yeah.
But this, I figured I'd use our wonderful new system.
Yep. That's a good, we'll make that recommendation. Let me, we got to cut this off right now, Matt. We have to introduce our speakers. We will have time afterwards, if we have time afterwards, but we have to get to our agenda. This is a very important topic to many of the councils. Penn Station access is really going to benefit everyone. In particular, of course, Long Island Railroad and Metro North riders, but subway riders also. So, because we do use other systems, freeing up tracks with East Side access and allowing Metro North's New Haven division into Penn Station allows the possibility of, if we live long enough, of through trains running through New York. You could actually have a New Haven to Trenton train, which would be great for people that live north of the city and work south or southwest of the city. So in order to make this happen, and it is happening, we're pleased today to introduce Eve Michelle and Mike Schiffer, who are going to take us through the many benefits of Penn Station access, not to mention, of course, the 4 new Bronx stations that we're going to get on Metro North. So this is a win-win for everybody. Oh, yeah, I just wanted this one, but I'll take them. I'll try them both. Thanks. Please. You want to operate the machine, right?
Thank you very much, everybody, and a big congratulations, Bill. You will be missed, and we're actually, we didn't realize we were going to have the special honor of being at your last meeting. I'm happy we were able to do it. Yeah, but thank you. You will be missed. Bill's deeply respected throughout the railroad and throughout all of our entities, I'm sure. And so we hope to see you riding the rails in your retirement.
We'll get a handheld.
Great. Hello? Okay. So again, just to say, my name is Mike Schiffer. I'm the Vice President for Planning at Metro North Railroad.
Is this live? Yes, it is. I'm Eve Michelle. I'm Program Executive for the Penn Station Access Project. And Metro North, Mike is my primary client, but clearly the constituency is a group that we are very much involved and care about.
And I'm going to start out, go through a few slides, and then Eve will chime in from time to time as well as we go through this. We're all very excited about this. I'll start with a little riddle, okay, for those of you who think regionally, since we have such a regional group. And the riddle is, what benefit does East Side Access bring to a White Plains customer? I should have disqualified Mr. Glucksman because we knew he would know the answer. But right, the answer is what it will do is it will open up slots at Penn Station, and the slots opening at Penn Station, and that really gets to the concept of Penn Access. It makes it possible then to operate some New Haven trains to Penn Station via the Hellgate line, and we'll get into the routing and so forth in the stations in just a few minutes. But that, in turn, will then open up slots at Grand Central, which is also at about 90-some-odd% capacity, which enables all three of the Metro-North lines really to expand capacity. So there's a domino effect, if you will, a domino benefit of having East Side Access, which makes Penn Access available and possible. Let me see here if this works. Oh, you know what? I'll just hit. Okay, that's all right. I can just hit the space bar. There we go. So anyway, I'm going to kind of go past the outline and just dive right into the presentation. From a geographic perspective, here you get a sense of the Metro-North lines, and I apologize, the Hudson line is fairly light on this map. It used to be color-coded. For some reason, it's not. But you've got the Hudson, the Harlem, and the New Haven line with its branches. And the New Haven line merges with the Harlem line in the far northern part of the Bronx at Woodlawn Junction, as many of you know. And those two lines then continue down through the center of the Bronx, and they merge with the Hudson line down at Mott Haven in the southern part of the Bronx. And then all three of Metro-North's east of Hudson lines then continue on to Grand Central Terminal across the Harlem River Lift Bridge, over the Park Avenue Viaduct, and in through the Park Avenue Tunnel. So one of the concerns which really came to light, it's come to light for many years, but it was demonstrated to us, sadly, over the last few years, is the fragility of having all of our lines rely on the single access point to Manhattan. As you know, there was the tragic gas explosion on Park Avenue in the Bronx several years ago. That happened right after the morning rush hour. So right after we had delivered all of our regular AM commuters into Manhattan, all of a sudden, all of Grand Central was cut off. And our reaction was, oh no, holy what? I mean, how are we going to deal with this? And fortunately, we were able to get the railroad back, and we were able to get the railroad back just in time for the PM rush, which was very helpful. But that, of course, illustrated that. We also had the fire underneath the viaduct a few years ago as well. Fortunately, that happened just at the tail end or towards the end of the rush hour. But what that... That's right. So that's one of the things is, as Andrew points out, we do have, and we're blessed really in this region with a lot of resiliency due to the various routes and so forth. But that just the same, that helped that. But and when things go wrong, we do have the subways. But of course, the subways are pretty crowded, and this crowd knows that better than anybody probably. And so you don't have a lot of extra capacity. And so that capacity is all very, very important. So having that access, having an alternative access point is very important from a resiliency perspective. Also getting into the earlier point that I mentioned, again, East Side Access will open up some capacity at Penn Station, and that allows us to take advantage of the fact that there's currently A line, which is run and owned by Amtrak, that takes you from the New Haven line into Penn Station. And anybody who's ridden the trains up to New Haven or beyond Boston, up to Boston and so forth, may have ridden across what's known as the Hellgate line, nicknamed that for the iconic Hellgate Bridge. It's a spectacular ride across the bridge, of course. And really that, was part of the old New York Connecting Railroad. So it's been around for a very, very long time. But here is an opportunity to really make it a useful connection point. And in doing that, you also have the ability to open up access for portions of the eastern part of the Bronx that don't have that rail connection. And that's really the game changer here. Because you have an opportunity for 4 new stations in the Bronx, which I'll get into in a minute. But basically, the way it would work is if you're, say, starting out at Penn Station, coming through across under the East River tunnels, kind of swing through Queens on that large incline up over the Hellgate Bridge. First stop is Hunts Point, then Parkchester, Van Nest, Morris Park, Co-op City, and then you continue on to New Rochelle, where you connect with the rest of the New Haven line. So that's very important. It's very important for especially the residents of the Bronx. One of the interesting things we found when we did some of our early planning is that the majority of customers at these stations won't actually be traveling into Penn Station in the morning. They'll be going in the outbound direction to destinations in Westchester and Connecticut. There's a lot of employment destinations there. And you see that reflected, for example, a good example of that is Fordham Road in the Bronx, our Fordham Road station. As you probably know, we had to do a massive expansion of the outbound platform. And if you haven't had an opportunity, I encourage everybody to take a look at that, because the outbound demand to places, in particular to White Plains and Stamford, which are our 2 biggest reverse commute stations, is very significant. And we expect a lot of that here as well. That's not to say people won't be going into Penn, because it will also provide, of course, a significant speed up for that travel. So anyway, that's kind of how it's laid out from a geographic perspective. And then just, from a bulleted text perspective, again, as I mentioned, it improves resiliency. It makes new parts of the region accessible to the East Bronx. And it provides a much faster train ride, also not just for the folks who live proximate to those new stations, but for the existing New Haven line customers who need to go to destinations on the west side of Manhattan. And there's a few things going on around Hudson Yards and so forth. And so there's a lot of opportunity for that as well. And then it also offers up more service for people who might be connecting, of course, to the west side subways and so forth. And as I mentioned, it enhances really the overall network's capacity by leveraging the rail network, in particular East Side Access, and it enhances capacity for the rest of the railroad as well. So in terms of the 4 stations in the Bronx, just starting from kind of the north or Railroad East going into the city, the first station you come to after you split off of the New Haven line at New Rochelle is Co-op City. I mean, holy crap, it's a huge, huge development. It's massive. It's like a city unto itself. 50,000 people or more are in that. Not everybody, one of the interesting facts about the Co-op City Station is not everybody's going to easily walk to that, because the development is so sprawling. There are actually buildings in Co-op City that are more than half a mile apart. And as you know, that it's a big bus hub. We're working with New York City Transit as they look at the redesign of the bus network. Because it's a hub, we can really leverage that so that people from other sides of Co-op City can effectively use that to connect to us, as well as connecting buses from places like City Island or other parts of that kind of general area. So that's an important station right there. It's constrained, its location is a little bit constrained because there's a bridge over kind of what's called Amtrak's Pelham Bay Bridge, where it goes over a waterway, and then you've got the train line ducks under I-95, and so you kind of have to thread the needle a little bit there. in order where you put the location. Yes, yeah, very important. Right. It'll be about a 25-minute ride to Penn Station from there. And at that location, again, it's just there's going to be a lot of bus transfers at that location. So that's going to be a big bus transfer stop. The next one on in is Morris Park. Now what's interesting about Morris Park and what makes it a little different than the other stations, the other of the 4 stations, is it's going to be a trip attractor in the morning. There is, of course, a very significant medical kind of agglomeration of activities there, right? There's a lot of hospitals, a lot of professional buildings, and so forth, institutions of higher learning that focus on medicine and so forth. And so there's over 13,000 employees in that area. And so that's going to be a big trip attractor. So that's going to be very important from that perspective. There's also residents who live near there, too. And then Parkchester Van Nest, again, situated between 2 very distinctive residential communities. You've got Parkchester on the one side, which is it's kind of like Stuyvesant Town, or it's very, very large multifamily development. And then you've got the Van Nest neighborhood as well, a lot of multifamily houses and single-family duplexes and so forth. And so there's over 40,000 people in that area, many of whom are within walking distance of that station. And the station will also offer, as it will at Morris Park, an opportunity to cross the tracks. So a new path, if you will, to connect 2 sides of 2 neighborhoods, which is also a very important connection. And then finally, Hunts Point, which is, again, a mixed-use residential community. A lot of people living near Hunts Point. It's also very important because it's adjacent to the 6 train. So it'll be a very important connection from the subway system to the line if you're either reverse commuting or if you're coming on in and your destination isn't Penn. You can connect there as well if you're going to other destinations. Hunts Point has some geographic challenges there with the expressway there and kind of some challenged crossings. And so paying a lot of attention to the design of that station and how it fits in the community is going to be also very important. Yes. Yeah. So, did somebody have a question? Okay. Yes. Yes, it does. And so there, again, you just have a lot of dynamics there that you have to work through with the station there. So just the reason why I put this map up is to show it's not a simple project. It's more than 4 stations. The 4 stations are highlighted here in green: Co-op City, Morris Park, Parkchester, and Hunts Point. But in addition to that, especially because Amtrak owns this right-of-way, okay? And so we'll get into that a little bit later as we talk about the institutional issues of this. So this is their backyard. They own this. We can't just do whatever we want there. And in fact, one of their key points is they don't want our commuter service to in any way degrade their intercity service. And so in addition to building the stations, of course, we have to provide for passing tracks, okay, passing sidings. And so that means we're developing interlocking plants where we can switch the trains back and forth and so forth. Additional passing sidings. The platforms have to be situated in such a way that you can fit all of this within the existing property envelope of Amtrak. And in addition to the passing sidings and the interlocking plants, of course, then you have improvements to the signal system that have to follow that. You have upgrades to the power distribution system as well, which means you're going to be building more substations as well. Also, from a kind of a techie perspective, you're operating on catenary over to a certain point, and then there's a phase change, if you will, in the overhead electricity. In our M8 series, rail cars can handle the one phase but not the other, but that's all right because at that point they will convert to third rail operation on the fly and run the rest of the way into Penn on third rail. And yes, the M8s can handle overrunning third rail of the Long Island as well as the underrunning third rail of Metro North. We've tested them. So we'll get into that in a little bit as well. So anyway, that gives you kind of a general view of, but fairly simplified, of a very complex project. Sorry, my Chicago is getting out there. Okay, so conceptually, in terms of the operating plan, that's still being developed. It is a commuter operation. It's not a subway operation. We don't have at the ends, you have to look at what is the capacity at Penn Station to be able to accommodate bringing in trains and turning them and bringing them out. What is the capacity of the New Haven line to handle an overlay of service? Because right now the New Haven line is pretty maxed out. And so how can you thread the needles there? What is the capacity at New Rochelle, at the interlocking there? What is the capacity at the various stations and so forth? And so it will probably have a commuter rail style level of service. We've been saying, you know, probably 30 minutes or better in the off-peak, 20 minutes or better in the peak. That's standard with what we operate on the rest of the railroad. It could be, I said, or better. It could be better than that. But at least those are some of the general parameters. And then also from a general parameter perspective, you're not talking about just overlaying a new service. You're probably going to divert some of the trains from Grand Central to Penn Station, but we're working very closely with Connecticut DOT, and we look at the ridership, and we're looking at origin destination surveys and so forth to determine how that split should happen so it best benefits customers who want to go one place versus the other. So we're not trying to take away service per se. It's where you have we have a zone service as it is and a very peaky service, and some of that peak we expect will shift over to Penn. So there's going to be some diversion. There's going to be some overlay, and then there will be some trains that bring people into New Rochelle and turn there, and people can either transfer at New Rochelle, or New Rochelle's also a destination in and of itself as well. Some will go to New Rochelle and may transfer to existing services. Some will only go to New Rochelle. Some will go as far as Stamford. Some may go as far as New Haven, or and beyond. Well, we're working through it. So what we're doing right now is we're doing simulations. We're stress testing, if you will, the New Haven line and the infrastructure to determine kind of how many trains does it take to cause things to bog down. And then you go there, you see where the problem areas are, you circle that, and then you look at what you can do to address that. And I know there, in fact, I think you mentioned it in an earlier meeting at one point, some concerns about New Rochelle. New Rochelle is actually not problematic. We found in our early testing, we have to pay a lot more attention to places like Harrison, New York, as well as Stamford. Harrison doesn't jump out at you as a place where you're likely to have a problem, but we actually short-turn a lot of our rush hour trains just past Harrison. And so there we have to pay some attention to that, as well as, of course, Stamford. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And the way it's set up right now is we will follow the Amtrak pattern. So the interlocking was rebuilt a few years ago to the tune of like $90 million. Correct. So you'll be using that island platform the same way Amtrak uses that. And there's also a place to turn trains just past New Rochelle, just we call it Railroad East of there. Okay, so anyway, that gives you a general sense of kind of what the service patterns would likely be. This project isn't new. It's been around for a while. It was talked about back in 1999, but it really took a lot of life in 2015. The governor noted it in State of the State. Money was appropriated for construction of the stations themselves. The stations themselves, of course, their construction depends on, again, that track layout and the alignment that you're taking through those areas there and the interlocking and so forth. And then, of course, we have to, we got a preliminary letter of agreement between our agencies, the MTA family, if you will, and Amtrak, that we agreed to do the planning together and some of the preliminary work. And now the next step is we're working on getting another agreement in place with Amtrak to get to the next level. And of course, those are always complicated conversations, as you can imagine. Hard to say right now. But they're working through some of the details, because some of the things that the simulations are telling us are how many tracks you need to have on the Hellgate line, for example, where the interlockings need to go, and then yes, well, except where they have freight overlay as well. With CSX has some layover spots, but the point is the next step. And jumping ahead a little bit, Eve is working on securing a general engineering contract that will do the finer analysis, if you will, and design, which will give it a better idea of what the actual costs will be.
That's a very quick question, since I'm running. Okay. With all this discussion, one of the problems for those of us uptown is that there is no way to get into Amtrak short of coming down to Penn Station. The accessible stop on Amtrak is Yonkers, and it's a disaster. Is there any discussion, consideration between the MTA and Amtrak to resolve that question?
So I can speak to this particular project. The stations themselves, the 4 new stations, will all be fully accessible.
Okay, but they're on the east side.
Right. And for that, I think one of the things we could do is follow up a little bit about the problematic aspects of Yonkers to find out specifically what the constraints are there to see.
Gaps.
What's that?
Great big gaps.
Yep. So again, we'll need to work through that. And as for other stations on Amtrak's network, I can't really speak to it too much because I don't know the details of what their constraints are. But we can speak a little bit about Yonkers, and they also serve our station at Croton Harmon, and of course at Poughkeepsie right now. And then they also serve us, of course, on the New Haven line at places like New Rochelle, Bridgeport, and Stamford.
Croton Harmon, it's the same issue. We'd have to come all the way downtown to get into the train.
Yep.
We're looking for something that we can go north on.
Yep. Well,
Nothing accessible. There is the one at 207, but I have no idea what that goes. Yes, University Heights.
yeah. Okay. Anyway, we could follow up on that. Yeah. Carol, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but they're not. Actually, one of the things they want to do is enhance the number of trains actually by 30%. And yes, but one of the things. Thank you, Eve. Go right ahead, Eve.
So currently, Amtrak, it runs on the line, but one of the reasons this is an advantageous project is that it's underutilized. They run 40 trains a day at this point in time, and so their 2025 projection is to have a 35% increase. And then, of course, the Penn Station Access Project will add Metro North to that.
So actually, that brings to light, Carol, one of the big issues, which is we're working very closely, the MTA family, because when you think about access to Penn Station, right, you've got a station that has Amtrak, of course, as well as New Jersey Transit, Long Island Railroad, and then Metro North. And so you're looking at a limited number of slots. And in addition to that, to jump ahead a little bit to where I was going to go, when you talk about kind of as you're opening it, it's probably not going to open up with the full level of service on the first day, because as we all know, for example, one of the things that needs to be done is the East River tunnels will be rebuilt by Amtrak, and those need to be rebuilt in a sequence. You're not going to have full capacity under the East River, which means probably that things will be sequenced both with, and of course, we're dependent on the level of service and opening day levels on the east side access as well. So the point being that yes, there's service there. That's one of the reasons why we need to upgrade the infrastructure. That's one of the reasons why we're going from 2 tracks now to 3 or 4, depending on the location you're at on the Hellgate line. And that's one of the reasons why we're going through with our consultants and our partners through a lot of iterations of the simulations to look at the different scenarios so that we can work out a service plan that's not going to be perfect for everybody, but it will be the broadest possible level, most flexible service plan that we could come up with.
Regarding your project, as you're starting this project, are you going to be adding another transfer connection for Amtrak on these 4 stations?
It's up to Amtrak to decide where they want to stop their trains. Right now, we have direct transfers at New Rochelle, of course, and at Stamford. And in addition, they stop some of their trains in other locations as well. As for these stations, Amtrak has not expressed a desire to stop their trains directly at the intermediate stations as yet. But again, I'm not with Amtrak. That perspective may change.
I wasn't concerned with the Amtrak. I was concerned maybe if you brought this up to Amtrak, maybe a station like Hunts Point. What I'm saying is because if people who want to come that part of the Bronx that's in the border of not far from Manhattan, or wants to go to, like Azita said, to the other side, to, let's say, the other side of Manhattan, there is a transfer connection, not just the 6 train, but not just the 2 and 5, but the BX Select Bex service right there can also take them to the other side, or the Yankee game.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of also, because you do have congestion at one station, that's the Hudson, that's where the Yankee Stadium, where the Hudson line runs, but people who are coming from the other part should have an extra options.
Yeah, so in terms of that, there are options. And of course, again, the Amtrak service planning folks, I'm sure as time goes on, we'll work through that. We do discuss that with them. Right now, we're talking more nuts and bolts at the moment. For the Amtrak customer who might be coming from, say, Old Saybrook, who wants to go to a Yankee game, we would recommend that they make the transfer at Stamford to one of our Yankee Clippers, and that takes you directly to Yankee Stadium there. But there are some options there. Okay, let me kind of plow through the rest of this, but was there one more question over here, Oren? So, yep. Through service has been discussed. I mean, you know, even more recently, we've done that with our football trains that run from New Haven that we're running up until just recently because of, again, some of the constraints that New Jersey Transit has been facing. But they would run from the New Haven line directly through Penn and connect up with MetLife Stadium. So, yes, that is in the cards. That's something we're considering very carefully. There's been a lot of interest in that. Of course, a lot of it's going to come down to what the volumes are projected to be, and of course, the trip generators. The most notable one that's been mentioned a lot has been, of course, the airport in Newark. But there's other opportunities as well. So folks in Connecticut certainly are interested in some of that as well. I mean, many would argue Amtrak already runs a through service. Well, yes, but of course it's at a premium. So you do have some opportunities there, and we're looking into that. Okay, let me plow through the rest of this real quick, and then we can take some more questions and get into some discussion. Yep, yeah, sure. Yeah, real quick, yep. That's all right. I'm flexible.
The Amtrak premium service, because it runs sometimes out of Grand Central, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it goes out. So how do you define premium?
What's that? So
Define premium.
no, I'm just saying Amtrak's service is kind of a premium priced service. That is, it's not a Metro North service. It's their own service. It's just the standard Amtrak service. Compared to our pricing, if you buy a ticket, that's what I meant. If you buy a ticket from you can buy a ticket now from New Haven to New York, but you're paying more. That's what I meant by a premium than you would be if you were buying a ticket. That's what I meant.
Okay, so in terms of how we get there, okay, you know, the next big question, of course, is when's this going to happen? That's what we're always, you know, people are always asking, when are we going to see it? Well, you know, so we've gone through, and this is actually not so accurate because a lot of these things aren't happening in a sequence, they're happening all at once. You know, we have interagency agreements. We have more interagency agreements, so there's more of that stuff going on. Technical analysis will go on throughout the process, but a lot of it has taken place already. We're getting started with the Federal Environmental Review. Eve and her colleagues are working through that part of it. Procurement of transit vehicles is kind of an ongoing effort, if you will, and it will continue to be as we move forward. And the design, permitting, and construction needs to take place, but of course we have to get through some more of those interagency agreements to get to a point where everybody's comfortable with doing that with the general engineering contractor going on. And then, of course, none of this can happen until Long Island Railroad starts operating East Side Access operations, and that then will open up the slots there. And of course, there's other complicating factors like East River tunnels and other infrastructure that needs to take place there. In terms of the technical analysis, I'm just going to blow through this pretty quick. We can come back to it if people have questions. Suffice it to say that, again, you know, a lot of it comes down to the simulations that I was discussing earlier. It really provides the foundation for the general engineering consultant that Eve is working through. Eve, did you want to say anything more about that, or want to wait? Okay. And then in terms of our partners, again, it's complicated. You've got, of course, the MTA family. You also have Amtrak. Connecticut DOT is a very important partner. Don't forget, Amtrak owns the Hellgate line, so really it's their backyard. And then CSX is a partner as well because they run freight service over that. And so you're balancing a lot of interests there. We've again done the simulations. I'm not going to get into the technical aspects of the alignment right now. Happy to talk to anybody later about that. We've already talked a little bit about that. But what we're trying to do, what we have to balance in all of this is, of course, the desire to have the 4 new stations, Metro North's ability to run the service, maintaining Amtrak's reliability while doing that, allowing CSX to continue their operation, and in addition to that, of course, you're dealing with physical constraints and it has to be constructible. And so, yep. You know, interestingly enough, we did look at that, and if you are a New Rochelle customer, okay, it's immaterial if I'm coming here, for example, and I actually live in that relative region there. If I'm coming here, whichever train comes first will suit me, because even with those stations that you're making, if you're coming in to Grand Central, you're still making Pelham and Mount Vernon East and Fordham and so forth. So really. So the point is the running time from New Rochelle is going to be about 25 minutes either way you go, to Penn or to Grand Central. Yeah, so it's kind of a wash there, which is good because it then helps balance the loads a little bit. Let's see, I talked a little bit about the conceptual engineering and the infrastructure and the simulations, so we kind of covered that. Again, we talked a little bit about the general engineering consultants and the travel demand forecasting. Oh, travel demand forecasting. So we've looked at kind of the origin destination patterns with the various stations and so forth. Looked at similar implementations in places like Boston and so forth, where you've had commuter rail stations that were built closer into the city to see what the induced demand would be, and a variety of other factors. And so these are very preliminary, they're not official yet, but roughly speaking, you're talking about between 45,000 and 50,000 one-way trips on the line overall, okay? Now, some of those trips will never go to Penn Station. That might be, for example, a trip might be somebody coming from, say, Stamford going to Morris Park. That would still count in that 45 to 50K. So in general, that's and then what you do that adds kind of about 20,000 trips to the New Haven line, and of those 45 to 50,000, about maybe 30,000 are going to and from Penn Station. So that gives you kind of a rough order of magnitude. But again, that's kind of very rough at this point. In terms of rolling stock, what's odd about this picture? Looking for the rail fans in the room. I'm going to exclude you. Yes. M8 at Jamaica, right. M8 at Jamaica. So it's operating with the overrunning third rail. And we're going to test the M8s further. We have some more testing as we're going along. Sorry, I didn't mean to exclude you there. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, so next steps. Again, we're continuing the operations simulations. We also have to simulate the power demands to determine kind of the feeds, the electrical feeds and so forth, completing the finer points of the travel demand forecasting, and then working through, again, finalizing some of the other rolling stock aspects of testing and the environmental review. Thank you very much.
To really go full blown on it. But with the ridership being pretty large to New Rochelle and Stamford, if there's any chance you could do some operations ahead of time for Bronx back and forth, not going all the way into Penn.
I think some of that is governed by the ability to turn trains. Anything's possible as you start phasing it. So I think we'll have to see. It's certainly something that has crossed our minds. We have to see what kind of the demand is there, but also there's a lot of work that needs to take place, even for the New Haven line to be able to handle it at New Rochelle. So I think we'll see if the sequence is such where it. Yeah, I quite honestly, I think you look at the time, the path to East Side Access going live and the path to this going live, and it's hard to say which is going to end up first anyway at this point. So,
my other question is, have you looked at station houses for any of these Bronx stations, or talked to the city about that as a station, as a destination? Is it fitting? Is it something that's getting looked at? And where does that stand, having station buildings with each station?
So the initial concept was the new Metro North stations tend not to. They've been trying to stay away from the houses themselves because of the maintenance and so forth and of them. That being said, we as a MTA family always look at opportunities for partnership. Our colleague Bob Paley, for example, in MTA Real Estate, has been having conversations with various stakeholders. We continue to as well. We look at opportunities to partner. We've been working with the city's Department of Planning as well. And in fact, we've been participating with them in some of the community-led workshops, and we've got some more going on with the station area planning. And so there may be opportunities here or there. Typically, the approach that's taken on behalf of MTA is we start out with the basics, and then if the private kind of entities want to add value to that in one manner or another by building onto that, I think that's an open conversation. Eve, did you want to add anything further?
Just a few things. We are very cognizant that this kind of an infrastructure improvement is going to radically upgrade the adjacent neighborhoods. That being said, we really have to stick to our core mission, which is kind of, Mike went over the infrastructure improvements that we're going to do along the Hellgate line. However, we have been meeting with the city, and in addition, we've done some economic analysis about what the tangential benefit is to the adjacent communities. There is talk about how there might be value capture. That being said, that's really outside the purview of the scope of work, but we are cognizant of the value that's added to communities from these kind of projects. And we are in an active conversation through Jana Lieber, who's the head of MTA Capital Construction, but also real estate, about how to leverage that.
Maybe in Grand Central. Did you ever consider the abandoned Fort Morris line as an option, swinging trains across the Bronx
Yeah,
and relieving pressure?
so we did. Yeah, we did look at that. Part of the challenge with that line, there's two challenges. One, there's a geometric challenge with the curve radius there coming out, and it was looked at a long time ago, because I was asked that when I first came here, and I said, why don't we do that? And it was explained to me very simply, was that the cars are too long right now. Our standard car lengths can't accommodate the turning radius. The other thing is, of course, a lot of it's already been built over at this point, so you can't really condemn that stuff. Some with high rises and that kind of thing. So yeah, so it has been, it's something that's come up from time to time. And I think just from a travel demand perspective, I think just even activating the stations in the Bronx and activating and really leveraging the Hellgate line will go a long way to addressing that. But there may be other ways to facilitate the cross Bronx travel.
There is one other question that I was looking at your stations too, in the areas that you mentioned with Co-op City. We do have buses that do go to Co-op City, but the challenge is right now that if that station does get open, it will help ease some of the bus pressure congestion around the Co-op City area. But the concern is you got to remember that Co-op City, you have disability and seniors at that area that need to make sure that station is like more accessible, 100% accessible, because the concern is that station, if people, it doesn't matter, they want to go north or they want to go down to the city, and they can sometimes get on a train. But I hope this will definitely pull up something
It's
up.
very clear to us. Yes, yes. That's
And
one.
signage is very important.
Yes, that's for sure. Question in the back. Right now, I've heard that the official date is the end of 2022. I can't speak for that project. Not my. It's easy for me to say not my project, but I'll say it. But it's again, when it is done, that's we're not waiting for it to be done. We're continuing to work on it. Yes, sir.
I already knew that damn project was scheduled to open in 2022. I was first told scheduled to open in 2019. And this is why I say the MTA doesn't stand for Metropolitan Transit Authority. It stands for money thrown away. That's just one reason why I say it's money. It's because I call it money thrown away. There are other reasons. And there's one that involves the board members who receive free parking stickers, free Metro cards, free easy passes. Money that could have been used to build that project. But apparently, the powers that be were more concerned about the volunteers and more concerned about the riders like myself and the employees. And let me remind you, the board members didn't always attend public hearings, which is outrageous. And there are some employees who didn't attend them regularly either, which is also outrageous. So again, 2022, one of my sisters will turn 50. Okay, so basically you're saying this project will open when hell freezes over, hell froze over Stone Cold Steve Austin and Stone Drunk Steve Austin. Money thrown away.
You
Bear that
made
in
your
mind.
point. It's when the Hellgate Bridge freezes over anyway. Someone else had their hand up. Yes, sir.
I agree with Chris on a Co-op City Station that that neighborhood has senior citizens and disabilities, and I was going to say the other station that needs also needs to be assessed needs to be accessible is Parkchester / Unionport, because they also have senior citizens and people with disabilities in that neighborhood also.
Yes.
And plus, the 6th line at Parkchester Station needs to be accessible with elevators. Okay, okay.
And while you're on
Understood.
that, while he's on that topic, the Co-op City Station, its location is very accessible to winds off Long Island Sound, because where that Amtrak bridge is and that body of water is, so there definitely needs to be shelters of some sort at that station. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
We hope we're all alive for this. That's all. Yeah, many will be. Bill, do you have any other business to come before them? Then thank you all for, thank you all, and again, best luck to Bill.